Phones. They crave our constant attention, but they promise us an endless stream of pleasure-giving dopamine. It can be very difficult to create and maintain a healthy relationship with our phones, but I truly believe that if we tap into what our bodies are telling us, we will get the clues to know when it is truly time to log off. Hi, welcome to Gently Being. On today's episode, I'm going to be sharing 5 steps that I took to create and now maintain a healthier relationship with my phone. Just a quick piece of background. I began to have a lot of pain in my shoulders and my neck, and eventually this led to a lot of lightheaded episodes. And I did go to a clinic to see if there were some underlying health issues, but we really couldn't find any. And while I do have an optometrist appointment coming up to check in to see if something's going on with my eyes, I wanted to be a little more proactive to figure out what my body was telling me. Clearly, these were signs that, I was doing something that wasn't making my physical self happy. So I really began to look at my phone usage and how it was linking up to how I was feeling. And this is how I came up with these 5 steps that I'm going to share with you now. A lot of times when we are on our phone, we start to become really disconnected from our physical self. I find this especially true when we sort of get into that zombie stare of just endlessly scrolling on a social media feed and liking certain things. We start to just sort of put all that focus out our eyes onto our phone, and we're not noticing the cues that our bodies may be giving us that we're causing some strain and discomfort to them. This can be because of the repetitive motion of our thumb while we're scrolling, just the way we're holding our hands, the way we're holding our neck, and the strain that we may be putting on our eyes. Research has shown that some people do get a form of motion sickness by the scrolling on their phones. I am noticing that this may be something that I sort of can relate to, because I've noticed that a lot of my lightheadedness is related to scrolling and phone usage. So by becoming more embodied when we're using our phones, we'll start to see when the length of time we're on our phone is creating an unhealthy relationship, because we're really physically feeling the strain and pain and stress in our bodies. For myself, how I did this is I really limited the time I was using my phone, and even after like 2 minutes of use, I just look up and just quickly scan to see, how am I feeling? Is my body okay? Is there stress or tension somewhere? And then maybe I would expand the usage a little bit and just, look up and see how I was feeling. By becoming embodied, we're really listening to what our bodies are telling us. And this can also be related to app usage. Are there certain social media apps that maybe are triggering some stress or anxiety in you? When we stop to really check in on how we're feeling, we may start to see connections between our health and phone usage. Step 2, reflection. So what you may want to do, and this is what I did, is just have a nice piece of paper that you quickly scroll down how long you've been on your phone, and then maybe a word, a phrase, or even just like a little happy, neutral, sad, super sad face that's related to the amount of time you were on your phone. I'll show you an example of what I did here. I have a notepad that features Embodiment art, and so I decided to take one with the screen, because sometimes I felt like that really was a good illustration of how I felt on my phone. And I just sort of wrote down times, an estimation of time, and a little reflection and a face that went along with how I was feeling after the phone usage. I used these little bits of paper because I could just easily fold them up and put them in my pocket or my bag and keep them with me. And I just had a little collection of them after a week, so I could really look back and see how I was feeling when I used my phone. It's really best to keep it just a really simple formula for yourself, so it's not putting too much pressure on your day to track a little bit of how you're using your phone. While I do know that there's apps that can track how you're using your phone, how long you're using a phone, I would suggest really getting off the phone and using paper and pen. Part of this is because we're sort of weaning ourselves away from our phones, so we don't want to create another reliance upon it. And just having like small piece of paper is a great way just to sort of jot down how you're feeling. Once you've done this, I did mine for a full week, but you can even just do it for a day, a couple of days, and see if you can notice a pattern between phone usage and how you may be feeling. And from there, reflect upon what you think this information is telling you would be a good balance and a healthy relationship between time usage on your phone and how your physical and mental self are feeling. Step 3, experimentation. So this is sort of a fun part. You may want to, after looking at the data you've collected on yourself and your phone usage, is experiment with how long you're using your phone. So for instance, you may want to be like, I only want to use social media for 20 minutes a day. And while that can be spread throughout the day, at the most, that's what I want to aim for, and then try that out for a week. Or perhaps you want to start by shutting all app notifications off on your phone, or always making it that you have to log in and log out of an app when you're using it, so that when you're on the app, it's really for an intentional purpose. Just see what works for you. Experiment around. I really do believe that you have to build your own personal relationship, and that we all have a different balance of what phone usage is healthy for us. It's difficult at first to really figure this out, because on one hand we have these pleasure promises from our phones through the dopamine that we get from the notifications and the sharing on social media. But then on the other side, we also have a cultural norm that thinks that our use of our phone is making us more productive, and that if we're not always using our phone for work or business, then maybe we're not being as productive as we should be. I know for myself, sometimes I have this real inner conflict between, should I be using social media more to help me build and share this business that I'm doing, but on the other hand, I do have some issues with the principles and methods that a lot of social media apps use to get people to use them, and then also just some of their business practices. So for me, it's really thinking through these issues while also being embodied when I'm using my phone to figure out, okay, what's the balance that is right for me? And remember, each person has like a different work situation, and the relationship with their phone and work can be different. So this experimentation phase is really for figuring out, how can I create the healthiest balance for my life as it is in this moment? Step 4, forgiveness. This is a really important step, because no matter what, even if you think you've sort of found out what the right balance is for you, you may end up slowly just sort of extending the time you're on social media, or the phone usage just keeps growing without you noticing at first. And you may slip up a bit here or there, and we want to forgive ourselves for the times that maybe we did stay on our phone too long and our neck and shoulder gave us pain again. And this is because we don't want to give up on the practice. We can have a healthy relationship with our phone, and sometimes when we just sort of beat ourselves down because we're not doing what we think we should be doing, well then that can lead to us giving up. We want to be gentle with ourselves, forgive ourselves. Remember that these social media apps that are on our phones that take up a lot of our time, they spend just so much money on learning and tweaking their apps so that we're on them as long as possible. That's how they partially make money. They don't really want us to log off, so they're made to keep us on. And it's important to remember that when we're trying to wean ourselves away from some of them. I also find it quite telling that a lot of individuals who are really, high ranking in the Silicon Valley world talk about how they don't want their kids using social media, because they do see that it can have an unhealthy impact on individuals' lives. And those are just things to think about when we're using our phones and trying to build this healthy relationship with them. Step 5, Practice and reevaluation. So the practice and the forgiveness are very tied together, and that's just saying that just like when you start any sort of spiritual practice or mindfulness practice or, jogging as a physical practice, every day you sort of get up and try again and try anew. It's just continuing to go forward, continuing to try and be better with our phones, and that's why I think it's more of a practice than something that's just set, oh, I figured it out and now I'll just keep that the way it is, no problem. Usually it's not really like that, and we just keep practicing every day. And then reevaluation is because our lives aren't static. They shift and they move, and you may want to every once in a while reevaluate, okay, am I still in balance with my phone? Can I actually maybe even pull back my phone usage a little more? Because sometimes when we start to pull back a little bit, we'll realize, you know what, I was relying on it too much and I can pull back a little more. Or maybe you've become a little too digital minimal and you need to just allow a little more space in. Again, allow yourself some time as you're going forward to reevaluate how your phone usage is and what the new balance maybe should be in your life. I hope that these 5 steps are able to help some people with evaluating and creating and then maintaining a more healthy relationship with their phone. I do have to say, just for myself, when I started to really reflect on the pain that I was having in my body and the lightheadedness, and then decided, okay, I'm going to take a break, and I took just a total break from social media. I wasn't using it on my phone at all for over a week. There was a drastic difference in how I felt. I was almost shocked at how different I was feeling, especially in connection with the lightheadedness. So it really is a matter of physical and mental health that you look at your phone usage and how it's feeling. If you really just take one thing away from the video, I hope it's embodiment. Be embodied when you use your phone. Don't totally disconnect. Our bodies are telling us things. Our bodies are telling us when maybe we're putting a little bit too much strain on us. Our bodies are telling us when we are maybe in a situation or looking at things that are causing a lot of stress and anxiety. Those manifest in our bodies. So if we can listen to our bodies more, we'll be able to build that healthy relationship with our phone. Thanks so much for spending time with Gently Being. If you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. It's always much appreciated. And subscribe to the channel below and hit the bell notification so you always know when there's a new video. Thanks again for spending time with Gently Being.